Hello everybody, welcome back to my Walking Dead review series. Today we're going to be looking at The Walking Dead. I've only made one video talking about The Walking Dead in the past, but today is going to be different because today we're going to look at all of Season 1. We're going to recap all of the first season of The Walking Dead. Alright, so this is where it all started, back in 2010. Robert Kirkman's comic book, The Walking Dead, was officially turned into a TV show. It premiered October 31st, 2010, and concluded in December 5th of 2010. So, only 6 episodes here. And what's really noteworthy is that this first season was actually developed by Frank Darabont, who did a few different things that made him really famous. He did The Green Mile. I can't remember what else he did. But anyway, Days Gone By is the series premiere. So I'm going to read the descriptions of each episode here, and then we're just going to fly by this season real quick, and then, do just a review of Season 1. Starting with Episode 1, Days Gone By. Wounded in the line of duty, King County Sheriff's Deputy Rick Grimes wakes up from a coma to find the world infested by zombies. Although in The Walking Dead they don't call them zombies. Alone and disoriented, he sets off in search of his wife and son. Rick encounters 2 other survivors, Morgan Jones and his son, Dwayne. Morgan gives Rick additional information about the situation, explaining that the undead are driven to eat the living. One thing to know, don't get bit. Morgan says, bites kill. Then you become one of them. Dwayne then speaks, I saw it happen. Morgan saw the transformation firsthand. His wife Jenny was bitten and then turned into a walker. Now she haunts him and his son, frequently returning to the house where she died. Rick takes Morgan and Dwayne to the King County Sheriff's Department, where they stock up on guns and ammunition. Rick is headed for Atlanta, where a refugee center has formed and the CDC is supposedly working on a cure. Yeah, right. Along with a rifle, Rick gives Morgan a walkie-talkie with instructions to check in daily at dawn, so the 2 men can reunite later. En route to Atlanta, Rick runs out of gas near a farmhouse where he finds a horse to ride the rest of the way. Meanwhile, Lori and Carl are living in a camp outside Atlanta with Shane Walsh, Rick's high school friend and partner, where there are many other survivors present, including Amy, Dale, Jim, the Morales, and I can't pronounce that family. Believing Rick to be dead, Lori has begun a romantic friendship with Shane, who is the group's de facto leader. So yeah, it was the very first episode of Walking Dead. Now we're going to get to Episode 2, Season 1, Episode 2, Guts. In a deserted Atlanta, Rick is overwhelmed by hordes of walkers. They trample his horse and force him to retreat inside a tank. Guided by Glenn, an adventurous young man who instructs him via radio. Rick grabs a gun and grenade and flees for his life. Glenn then leads Rick to a department store where they meet up with other survivors, Andrea Morales, Jackie, T-Dog, Merle Dixon, a redneck ex-con. After the violent and racist Merle attacks T-Dog, Rick handcuffs Merle to the store rooftop. Rick then hatches an escape plan which involves Rick and Glenn smearing themselves with walker guts as camouflage. Having Navigated through the crowd of walkers, Rick drives off in a cube van to execute the survivors. Glenn helps to lure the undead with the sound of a car alarm and a hot-wired Dodge Challenger. Back on the rooftop, T-Dog accidentally drops the handcuff key down a ventilation pipe, then chains the access door shut to the stranded and furious Merle. So the stranded and furious Merle will be relatively safe from hungry walkers. That was the second episode. Episode number 3, Tell It to the Frogs. Driving back to camp, Morales warns Rick about Merle's brother, Daryl, who will be angry that his brother was abandoned. Glenn arrives at camp first, and Shane and Dale chat about trolling walkers with the car alarm. Jim disconnects the alarm just as the cube van approaches. Andrea tearfully reunites with Amy, her younger sister, as does Morales with his family. Rick then emerges from the van and is shocked to discover Lori and Carl living at the camp. Later that night, Carol tells Rick she was told he would be medevac, was that word? To Atlanta, but it never happened. Mom said you died, Carl says. She had every reason to believe that, Rick replies, before thanking Shane for saving them. That night, Rick and Lori have sex in their tent, vowing to each other that this is a new beginning in their marriage. The next morning, Rick and the others find a walker feasting on a freshly hunted deer in the woods. Jim theorizes the undead are running out of food in the city. Daryl returns from an overnight hunt after being informed of his brother's whereabouts. Daryl attacks Rick and Shane, who subdue him. Daryl vows to retrieve his older brother. Horrified at the idea, they left Merle bound and unable to fend for himself. Rick volunteers to go with them, as do Glenn and T-Dog. You're putting every single one of us at risk, Shane says, arguing they need everybody to protect the camp. Rick contends that they really need the guns that he dropped when the geeks attacked. Lori is against it, but Rick tells her he has to get the walkie-talkie back, otherwise Morgan and Dwayne could walk into the same trap he did. After Rick departs, Lori tells Shane to keep away from her family. You are not the only one. You're the only one that told me that he died, Lori. Nearby, an altercation breaks out between Ed and his wife, Carol. Oh my god, Ed. He was a fucking prick. After Ed slaps Carol, Shane intervenes and beats the man mercilessly. Good. Fucking deserved it. I'm pretty soon he's gonna die here in a minute. In Atlanta, Rick and company head to the department store where Merle was left. Reaching the door they had barricaded, they see chains have been broken. They then find the rooftop desecrated, save for a severed hand lying bloodied inside a hacksaw. Daryl screams as the screen cuts to black. Alright, that was episode 3. Episode 4 is Vatos. The Atlanta crew follows Merle's trail of blood down the streets. They decide to retrieve Rick's guns before continuing the search. Glenn goes for the guns while the others stand guard. Their plan is derailed when Daryl is jumped by 2 men. Glenn is then taken hostage and brought to the inner city fortress. Although his captors at first seem hostile, it turns out that they are simply locals who are trying to protect elderly survivors in a nursing home. Glenn is set free and Rick passes on some guns to the nursing home staff. Rick, Glenn, T-Dog, and Merle then discover their vehicle is missing. Merle. Rick says he's going to be taking some vengeance back on the camp. Daryl predicts. Back at the camp, Andrea and Amy present fellow survivors with fish caught in a nearby lake. Dale interrupts the excitement to express concern over Jim, who is feverishly digging holes without explanation. Shane subdues Jim, who could not remember exactly why he was digging. I had a reason, don't remember, he says, something I dreamt last night. Andrea, meanwhile, roots through Dale's RV. She's looking for something to wrap up Amy's birthday present, a mermaid necklace she took from the department store. Later, the group feasts on fish around the campfire, and the mood takes on a lighter note. When Amy steps away to the bathroom in the RV, she is bitten in the arm by an unseen roamer. One of many about to attack the camp. God damn it, I can't talk. Rick and his coverts arrive and drive the walkers back. They are too late, though, to save Amy or Ed. Jim has also been bitten during this attack. Another good episode here. Alright, episode 5, Wildfire. The survivors burn the walkers, though Glenn insists that they should bury the dead. Andrea cradles Amy nearby, unwilling to let anyone near the body. Dale I can't pronounce that word. Explaining that since his wife died, you girls were the first people that I cared anything for. Andrea tells Dale she feels guilty for missing so many of Amy's birthdays. I'm sorry for not ever being there. Andrea weeps, kneeling next to a now reanimated Amy. She tells Amy that she's here for her and loves her, and then puts her down with a shot in the head. When Jim's injury is revealed and the sickness associated with the infection worsens, Rick suggests the group go to the CDC for help. Shane thinks the army base in Fort Benning is safer, but it's 125 miles away. While sweeping the forest for any remaining rumors, Shane tries to convince Rick to change his mind, but he says, I gotta do what's best for my family. Rick says, if it was your family, you would feel differently. Enraged, Shane aims a gun at an unknowingly Rick, but he doesn't pull the trigger. Rick didn't see Shane's actions after their argument, but Dale had been watching the entire spectacle. Jesus, he mutters. Later, Shane announces his support of Rick's plan. Morales says that his family will not be joining the group, and they head off in a different direction. We will talk about Morales way later when he returns for a brief moment in Season 8. Okay, Jim in agony asks Rick to leave him behind. I want to be with my family, he says, of his late wife and children. The group reluctantly leaves him beneath the tree. Yeah, he didn't want to die, he just wanted to get through the infection and everything. In a CDC laboratory, scientist Dr. Edwin Jenner performs experiments on a tissue sample designed TS-19. He then accidentally spills corrosive fluid, initiating a decontamination sequence that destroys the samples. Meanwhile, Rick's caravan approaches the CDC. Jenner watches the group approach via a security monitor. Alright, now we're coming up to the final episode of this season, TS-19, which is the name of the virus. Jenner agrees to allow the survivors into the building, provided they submit to blood tests. The group then feasts on food and wine, and luxuries, and hot showers. Afterward, Andrea lamentates the fall of civilization as Dale attempts to comfort her. Later, Shane drunkenly comforts Lori, professing his love and insisting that he didn't lie about Rick being dead. Drunk and out of control, Shane tries to force himself on Lori, who scratches his face and neck to stop him. Horrified by his own behavior, Shane flees, leaving Lori shaken and afraid. The next morning, Jenner shows the group brain scans of test subject 19, his wife, who allowed her infection to be recorded. He admits he did not know what the disease is or how to treat it. Also, he has lost contact with any other facilities. Worse yet, the CDC's generators are running out of fuel. When they are empty, the building will self-destruct as pure decontamination protocol. Though at first he tries to convince them to stay, Jenner agrees to let Rick and the others flee when the self-destruct is activated. Jackie, terrified of ending up like Amy or Jim, opts to stay behind. After a fiery explosion, Rick and his fellow survivors caravan away from the smoldering rubble, destination unknown. That is going to be my review for all of Season 1. I love this season. It's the show, it's the season that started it all. And yeah, that's gonna be my video for right now. I'm gonna give this season a 10 out of 10. I think it's an almost perfect season. Stay tuned for my reviews of Season 2 and onward. I'm going to try to review each individual season, but the videos are just going to get longer and longer because after Season 2, each season, I believe, has like 16 episodes, and then the final, Season 10 had 22 episodes, and the final season had 24. I am right now currently trying to finish Season 11. But I thought it would be a good idea to go back and review the very first season of The Walking Dead. Alright, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.